The girl in the alley. The street was quiet that night. The lamps flickered and the wind carried dust through the alleyways. Ethan had just finished a long shift at the factory. His hands were dirty, his legs tired, and his backpack felt heavier than ever. All he wanted was to reach home, take a hot shower, and sleep. But as he passed an old alley, he stopped. There was a sound. A cough. Weak and dry. Then another. He turned his head and squinted. A small figure was curled behind a trash bin. He almost walked away. But the sound came again. Soft, like someone trying not to cry. He stepped closer. That's when he saw her. A little alien girl, maybe 10 or 11 years old, was sitting on the cold ground. Her skin was light violet, her arms too thin, and her dress torn like it had been caught in wire. Her large eyes were glowing faintly, but full of fear. She looked up at Ethan and froze. Ethan slowly knelt down. "Hey." "It's okay," he said, softly, showing his hands to show he wasn't dangerous. "Are you hurt?" The girl didn't speak, she only stared. Her lips trembled, and her stomach let out a loud growl. Ethan reached into his bag and pulled out a protein bar. He opened the wrapper and held it out. The girl looked at it, then at him. Then, like an animal ready to flee, she snatched it and stuffed it into her mouth. She ate fast, like she hadn't eaten in days. Ethan didn't move. He watched, silently. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. She still didn't speak, but her eyes looked softer now. "Do you live around here?" he asked. "Is someone with you?" The girl hesitated. Her lips parted for the first time. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Can I come back?" "With my mom?" Ethan blinked. "What?" "My mom," she repeated. "I can bring her, tomorrow." He frowned. This wasn't some street beggar child. She was different. Her skin, her eyes, her quiet way of speaking. But she didn't seem dangerous, just scared. He nodded slowly. "Okay. Come back tomorrow. I'll be here." She stared for a moment longer. Then she got up, slowly, stiffly, and vanished into the shadows. Ethan stood there, confused. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why was she alone? That night, he couldn't sleep. The next day passed slowly. Ethan went to work, but his mind kept drifting to the alley, to the little girl, the way she looked at him, her voice, her hunger. Who was her mother? Were they hiding? After work, he returned to the same alley. The same cold wind blew. The same trash bins sat near the walls, but no one was there. He waited. 10 minutes. 20. He checked his watch. Then, just as he was about to leave, he heard footsteps. He turned. The girl had returned, and this time she was not alone. Beside her stood a taller woman. Her skin was the same violet shade, but her eyes were sharper, more alert. She had a long scarf wrapped around her arms and shoulders. Her steps were graceful, like a dancer, but her expression was hard, protective. Ethan raised his hand gently. "Hello." The mother didn't speak at first. She looked at Ethan, then at her daughter. The girl smiled a little and said, "He gave me food. He said I could come back." The woman tilted her head. Her eyes studied Ethan carefully. "You helped her?" she said finally, her voice calm but firm. "I did what anyone should do," Ethan replied. "No," the woman said, stepping forward. "Not everyone would." Ethan stayed quiet. He didn't know what to say. The woman sighed. "We are not from here. We had to leave our world. We have nothing." "You're safe here," Ethan said. "I don't know what happened to you, but I can give you food, maybe something warm." The mother's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because your daughter was starving," he answered simply. "And because you're her mother?" There was silence. Then slowly the mother nodded. "Very well," she said. "We will come." And as the three of them walked back through the alley, Ethan didn't realize how much his life had just changed. The return with her mother. The wind howled through the alley again the next evening, colder than before. Ethan waited near the same trash bin, eyes searching the shadows. A part of him thought she might not return. Maybe she had run. Maybe she didn't trust him after all. But then, he felt it. A presence. He turned, and there she was. The little alien. Girl stepped out from behind a rusted door. Her small hand clutched the sleeve of a tall figure behind her. Slowly, carefully, the second figure stepped forward. Her mother. She was taller than Ethan expected, with long silver hair tied in a rough knot, and strange blue markings across her face. Her clothes were patched together, clearly hand-stitched, from scraps, but she carried herself like someone noble, proud. Her eyes were sharp, glowing softly in the dusk. Ethan swallowed nervously. "Hi. Again?" The mother didn't smile. She looked him over, her gaze cold but curious. "You are the human who fed my daughter," she said calmly. "Yes?" Ethan nodded. She was starving. The little girl tugged her mother's arm gently. He was kind. The woman studied Ethan in silence. Then she nodded once. "We will come with you." Ethan turned, motioning for them to follow. He led them through the quiet streets to his apartment on the edge of the industrial zone. It wasn't fancy, a small one-bedroom flat with peeling walls and a broken heater, but it was warm and it was safe. Inside, the mother looked around with sharp eyes. She didn't sit. She stood beside her daughter like a guard. Ethan moved to the kitchen and heated up soup, placing it on the small table. "You can sit," he offered gently. The girl sat first, hands folded, waiting. Only after her daughter did the mother slowly lower herself into the chair. They ate in silence. Ethan didn't push questions. He only watched them quietly with curiosity and a strange feeling growing in his chest. The woman finally spoke after several minutes. "My name is Morel. My daughter is Anna." Ethan smiled. "I'm Ethan." Morel stared at him. "You live alone?" He nodded. "Yeah, just me." "No family? No one nearby? Why?" She lowered her spoon. "We have no one either. Only each other." There was a long pause. Ethan felt her eyes digging into him, measuring him, testing his nature. She leaned forward, her voice softer now. "You helped my child. You shared food. You opened your shelter." She paused. "Do you understand what this means in our culture?" Ethan blinked. "No. Should I?" Morel placed a hand on her chest. "In our world, when a male protects a female and her child in time of weakness, it is seen as a bond." Ethan's mouth opened slightly. "A bond?" Her eyes did not leave his. "A proposal." He froze. "Wait, what?" "You offered food, warmth, kindness. These are not small things to us. We don't offer trust easily. But now, you are connected to us." Ethan stood slowly. "I think you may have misunderstood. I was just trying to help." The little girl looked between them. "He's nice, Mama. I like him." Morel raised her hand, silencing her daughter. "I do not offer this lightly. We will leave if this offends you." Ethan shook his head quickly. No, it doesn't offend me. I just wasn't expecting." He looked at them, two souls who clearly had no one else in the universe. "You don't have to leave," he said. "Stay tonight, rest, we'll talk more tomorrow." Merrill studied him for a long time, then nodded once. "We accept." That night, Ethan gave the girl his bed and set up blankets on the floor for Merrill. He took the couch. But sleep didn't come easy. He lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about what she said. A bond. A proposal. Was this real? Did he accidentally enter something sacred? He didn't even know their customs. Then he heard a soft sound. Footsteps. Merrill stood near the couch watching him. She didn't speak right away. I only ask you to think, she whispered. We will not hurt you. We only wish to belong again. And with that, she walked back into the dark hallway. Ethan sat up, staring into the shadows. He didn't know what he had gotten himself into, but deep inside, he knew one thing. This wasn't just kindness anymore. It was the beginning of something far bigger. The offer that shocked him. Ethan had never felt so strange waking up. The apartment was silent but not empty. He could still hear soft breathing coming from the room. The little girl, Anna, was curled in his bed, hugging a pillow like it was a treasure. In the hallway, the alien woman, Meryl, had made her own space with the blankets he gave her. She hadn't moved much in the night, but her eyes, they had watched him. He could feel it. He sat on the couch, running a hand through his messy hair, replaying her words in his mind. A bond, a proposal. Was it real? Did she mean marriage? Why would someone like her, regal, sharp, mysterious, offer something like that to him? He was just a factory worker. He stood, walked quietly to the kitchen, and began boiling water. The old kettle rattled on the stove. He was about to reach for mugs when he turned and froze. Morel stood behind him. He didn't hear her footsteps. She stood straight, eyes calm, hands folded in front of her. She had tied back her silver hair more neatly today. There was something almost royal about her posture. You wake early, she said. Ethan tried to smile. Habit. He poured her a cup of hot water and offered it. She took it without blinking, but didn't drink. There was silence for a moment. Then she spoke again. My daughter slept safely last night. That hasn't happened in a long time. Ethan nodded slowly. I'm glad she felt safe. Morel looked at him closely. You still don't understand what you've done. Ethan leaned against the counter. I'm not sure I do, she set the cup down. In my culture, for a man to give shelter, food, and comfort to a mother and her child is a sacred act. It is not just kindness. It is a promise. He shifted uncomfortably. But I didn't promise anything. I just did what anyone would. Her voice remained calm, but her gaze sharpened. No. Others passed my daughter on the street. Many looked, none stopped. You did. He opened his mouth to reply, but stopped. She stepped closer. I am not asking for love, she said. Not yet. I am asking for safety, for space to heal, and in return I offer loyalty, protection, and something more. Ethan's heart pounded. Something more? Meryl tilted her head. My people are bonded by action, not words. You've already begun the bond. I only ask, will you let it grow? Before Ethan could respond, the front door shook. A loud knock. Ethan frowned and moved toward it, looking through the peephole. It was a man. Or at least, it looked like one. But something was off. His skin was pale gray, his eyes bright red. He wasn't human. The man growled, loud enough to be heard through the door. I know she's here. Return the traitor, or face what comes. Ethan's blood ran cold. He turned to Morel. Her face had turned stone-like. She whispered, They've found us. Without thinking, Ethan shut off the lights and locked the door tighter. Anna ran out of the bedroom, her eyes wide with fear. Mom, she cried. Morel grabbed her daughter, shielding her behind her back. Stay low. Ethan whispered, Who is he? Morel's voice was cold. A hunter, sent to drag us back. He doesn't believe in mercy. Outside, the voice roared again. You're protecting them, human. Then you die with them. Ethan's hands were shaking, but he stepped in front of the door. I'm not handing over anyone, he called out. Silence followed, then a loud screech, and footsteps faded. Ethan waited another minute before turning to Meryl. Is he gone? For now, she said. He looked at both mother and child. You're not safe, are you? No, Morel whispered. But we can be, if you still want us here. Ethan took a deep breath. Then he gave his answer. You're not going anywhere. Not without me. Ana's small hand grabbed his sleeve. Meryl looked into his eyes, something soft finally showing in her expression. Then she spoke again, gently this time. Then you must understand. You are no longer just a helper. She placed her hand over his chest. You are part of our family now. The night they were hunted, Ethan thought it was over. The strange man outside had left. The apartment was quiet again, but deep down, something didn't feel right. That night, Ethan double-checked every window. He placed furniture against the door. He even kept a heavy wrench by the bed. But still, his hands wouldn't stop shaking. Marel and Ana were asleep in the bedroom now. The small girl was curled up in a blanket. Her mother lay beside her, unmoving, but not relaxed. Even in sleep, Marel looked like a soldier ready to fight. Ethan stayed on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Every small sound in the hallway made him sit up. A creak, a distant knock, a shadow moving past the window. His heart pounded all night. Just after midnight it happened. A loud scratch came from the outside wall, then another. Something sharp was scraping down the metal panel near the fire escape. Ethan jumped up and ran to the window, and there he was, the same hunter. But this time, he wasn't alone. Two more figures stood behind him, tall, thin, cloaked in black armor that shimmered in the moonlight. Their eyes glowed red, their hands were clawed. They weren't just here to talk, they were here to take. Ethan rushed to the bedroom. Marel, wake up! She opened her eyes instantly, grabbing her daughter and pulling her close. They've returned, Ethan said, voice low. 3 of them, outside. Marel stood fast. We must run. I blocked the doors. The windows are locked. She looked at him and said something in a sharp alien tongue. Ethan didn't understand the words, but the fear in her voice was clear. Ana began to cry softly. We can't run, Ethan said. But maybe we can hide. Meryl stared at him. You would risk your life again? He nodded. You're under my roof now. You're not just guests anymore. Meryl stepped forward. Slowly, she reached out and pressed 2 fingers to Ethan's forehead. A strange heat passed through him. What was that? He asked. Our blessing, she said. If we do not survive, our ancestors will know your name. Ethan pulled them into the kitchen and opened the trapdoor to the old basement, a dusty, unused space filled with boxes and pipes. He had never thought it would serve any purpose. Tonight, it became their only hope. He helped Ana down the narrow steps. Morel followed, silent as a shadow. Ethan covered the trapdoor with a rug and quietly stepped back into the hallway. Then, the front door exploded. The wall shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan barely had time to grab his wrench. One of the hunters stepped inside. His skin was pale. His armor hummed softly with energy. His eyes fixed on Ethan like a predator. You had a chance, human, the creature hissed. Ethan gripped the wrench tighter. They're not yours, the creature laughed. You're willing to die for something that isn't even your species? I'm willing to die, Ethan said, stepping forward, for anyone who cries in an alley. The creature lunged. Ethan swung the wrench. It hit hard, metal against bone. But it wasn't enough. The hunter grabbed Ethan by the throat and slammed him into the wall. Just as Ethan's vision blurred, there was a flash of blue light from behind. Morel. She had come up from the basement holding a glowing device in her hand, a small cube, pulsing with energy. She shouted a word in her language. The device exploded in light, not fire, not sound, just pure light. The hunter screamed, blinded, staggering backward. Morel grabbed Ethan and dragged him toward the basement again. Ana was calling for them from below. They barely made it inside before the second hunter entered the apartment. Morel slammed the trapdoor shut. Then silence again. They sat in the darkness. Ethan coughed, holding his ribs. Morel pressed her hand over his chest and whispered a quiet chant. Warmth spread through his body. Just enough to dull the pain. You saved us again, she said. Ethan chuckled weakly. I think we're even now. Morel looked at him closely. No, she whispered. Now I owe you everything. For the rest of the night, the three of them stayed huddled together in the basement. No one spoke. No one slept. They just listened to the footsteps above, hoping morning would come soon, and Ethan realized something deep inside him. He wasn't afraid of dying anymore. He was only afraid of losing them. The mark of mating. The morning sunlight crept through the cracks of the basement ceiling. It lit the dust in the air like golden smoke. Ethan was awake. He hadn't slept at all. His arms were around Aina, who had finally stopped trembling. Her head rested against his chest, her small hand clutching his shirt like a lifeline. Beside them sat Morel, silent, still, watching the shadows. They had survived the night. But something had changed. Morel wasn't just calm now. She looked, decided. Ethan gently laid Aina down on the folded blanket. He turned to Morel. Are they gone? She nodded. For now. They'll come back. Yes, she said, but they won't take us. Ethan looked at her closely. How can you be so sure? Merrill met his eyes. Then slowly, she reached into the folds of her tattered cloak and pulled out a thin silver shard, shaped like a blade but with no edge. It shimmered faintly with symbols that glowed when her fingers touched them. She didn't speak as she stepped closer to him. Then softly she said, Show me your hand. Ethan hesitated. What is that? This is our ancient mark, she said. It is placed only once. On someone we trust with our life, our child, and our soul. Ethan blinked. Wait, what do you mean? Morel gently took his hand and pressed the cold, flat edge of the shard against his palm. The silver glowed. A tiny warmth pulsed through his skin. Then it cooled. When she pulled it away, a small glowing mark had appeared on his skin, like a tattoo of light. Simple, beautiful, alive. Ethan stared at it. What did you just do? Merrill's voice was calm but heavy with meaning. You are now bound to our blood. In the eyes of my people you are my mate. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. She continued, You protected us. You were willing to fight, even die. You showed more honor than many of my own kind. Ethan shook his head. But I don't even know your world. I'm just a man with a small apartment. Morel leaned closer. No, Ethan, you are a protector. You are the father Aina now looks for in her sleep. You are the shield that stood between us and death. Aina stirred behind them, half awake. Her soft voice whispered, Mama, is he really my papa now? Merrill didn't speak. She just turned and placed a gentle hand over her daughter's head. Yes, she whispered. Ethan felt something deep shift in his chest. He looked at the mark on his hand, glowing gently, like it was alive. Won't this make me a target? He asked. Morel nodded. Yes, but it also makes you ours. And us. Yours. Suddenly, there was a sharp beep from above. The motion sensor near the apartment window. Ethan froze. Morel rose fast. Someone's here, but it wasn't the hunters. A knock came at the door upstairs. Then a voice, a woman's voice. Ethan, it's Kara. Are you okay? Ethan sighed in relief. Kara was his neighbor. She worked at the same factory. He rushed upstairs, opened the door. Her eyes widened. Your door. It's wrecked. I had trouble last night, Ethan said. She stared at his bruised neck and bandaged arm. What happened? Before he could answer, footsteps came behind him. Morel had stepped into the light. Kara's jaw dropped. Who is that? Morel raised her chin, regal as ever. I am Morel. His bonded. Kara blinked. Wait, his what? Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, it's a long story. Behind them, little Aina peeked from the shadows. Kara stared at the strange girl with the glowing eyes and shy smile. I should come back later, Kara muttered, clearly overwhelmed, and left quickly. Morel turned to Ethan. You must choose soon. Choose what? If you stay bonded to us, she said, you cannot go back to your old life, the mark on your hand. Others will see it. They will know. Enemies and allies, both. Ethan looked down again at the glowing mark on his palm. Thought about his boring job, his empty house, his quiet, lonely life, and then he looked at Morel, at Aina. He wasn't just protecting them now, he belonged to them. I've already made my choice, he said. I just didn't know it until now. Her past as a widow. Queen the next morning, the sky was gray, heavy with clouds. Ethan stood on the balcony watching the city slowly wake up. Cars passed below. Sirens echoed in the distance. Somewhere a dog barked. But none of it felt real anymore. Not after everything that had happened. He turned his palm over and stared at the glowing mark Morel had given him. It hadn't faded. In fact, it looked brighter in the morning light. Behind him, the apartment was quiet. Aina was asleep again, curled beside a warm heater. Meryl was awake, standing near the window with her hands behind her back, lost in thought. Ethan broke the silence. You said they'll come back, that I've been marked. But why? Why are they chasing you? Meryl turned slowly, her expression unreadable. For a moment she said nothing, then she nodded. It is time you knew. She sat down, her back straight, her eyes fixed on the floor. I was once married, she said. Long ago on another world, not to just any man but to a royal. Ethan frowned. You were royalty? She nodded again. My mate was the war consort of the House of Zaroon, a powerful leader. I was his chosen bondmate. When he died in the uprising, I became a widow. And then? Ethan asked softly. Morel's voice was calm but carried pain underneath. In our culture, widows of power are feared. They are seen as cursed, dangerous, or too valuable to leave unclaimed. I was supposed to be handed over to his brother. I refused. Ethan leaned forward. What happened? Morel's jaw clenched. They tried to break me, to take my child. I escaped with Aina and ran, through trade ships, dark ports, and ruined worlds. I've been running for 6 years. Ethan was silent. The pieces were falling into place now. You were hiding here, he said. But they found you. Yes, she whispered. And now they know I've bonded again. To a human. That will shake them. Why? Morel's eyes locked onto his. Because our customs are sacred. Bonding to someone outside our kind, especially a widow queen, was once forbidden. Ethan's heart pounded. So I've broken their law just by helping you? She stood, walking to him. You haven't broken anything, you've rewritten it. She placed her hand gently over the glowing mark on his palm. This symbol makes you more than a protector. It makes you a consort to a fallen queen. Ethan took a breath. So now I'm not just a target, I'm a threat. Morel nodded. Yes, but also hope. He blinked. Hope? Our people believed love could not cross species, that humans were too wild, too selfish, but you... She paused, voice softer now. You changed that belief. You changed me. Ethan felt a strange heat rise in his chest. He had lived a quiet life. He fixed machines, paid bills, kept to himself. But now, he was standing next to a queen in hiding, holding the trust of a child who called him Papa, marked by a bond that reached across stars. Then we don't run anymore, he said. We prepare. Morel looked at him with something close to awe. You are not a soldier. You have no army. What can you possibly prepare for? Ethan smiled. I have tools. I have time. And I have something they don't. What is that? She asked. I have something worth protecting. That evening, Ethan and Morel sat together while Aina played quietly with a small collection of wires and glowing toys Ethan had fixed for her. Morel held a small sphere in her hands. She pressed it once and a soft hologram lit up in the air. It showed her old world, massive towers, shimmering lakes, stars reflected in glass buildings. I never thought I would miss it, she said. But I do. Would you go back? Ethan asked. She looked at him. Only if I could walk in free, with the one who protected me. Ethan leaned back. I'm not a king. No, she said with a smile. You're something rarer. You're kind. Aina ran up and climbed into Ethan's lap. Can we stay here forever? She asked, sleepy-eyed. Ethan hugged her close. We'll stay, as long as it's safe. Morel watched them, silent, her expression soft, and for the first time in years, she believed forever might actually be possible. A family made by kindness. It had been 7 days since the attack, 7 days since Ethan's life stopped being ordinary. The apartment, once silent and lonely, now echoed with soft laughter, strange lullabies, and the quiet hum of something new. Belonging. Aina sat by the window, watching the birds fly past the building. She giggled every time one landed on the sill. Beside her sat a strange metal toy Ethan had built using parts from an old toaster. It blinked and made soft chirping sounds whenever she touched it. In the kitchen, Morel was cooking something unusual. She had found alien herbs in Ethan's spice cabinet, ones he didn't even know he had. She called it Zelthari broth. It smelled like mint, smoke, and something sweet. Ethan entered the room, rubbing the back of his neck. I didn't know I had royalty making soup in my kitchen, he joked. Morel glanced back at him, a rare smile tugging at her lips. You saved a queen from being hunted. The least I can do is cook for you. Ethan leaned against the counter. It's strange. Everything feels normal. Merrill stirred the pot. That's what makes it dangerous. He nodded. You think they'll come again? She didn't answer right away, then. Yes, they won't stop. Not unless we make them stop. He sighed. I thought so. But this time, she said, turning to face him, we won't hide. That night, Ethan sat with Aina while Morel stood beside the small projector she had repaired. She pressed a crystal into the base, and a glowing star map bloomed in the air, lines traced between distant worlds. A golden mark flashed beside one star, Zaroon, her home. She pointed to a red symbol blinking next to it. This is where the signal came from, the hunter's camp. Ethan studied the map. You want to go there? I want them to know we're not running anymore, she said. He looked at her. Are you asking me to fight? Morel shook her head. I'm asking you to stand beside us, as family. That's more powerful than a weapon. He paused. Then he took her hand. I'm in. The next day, Ethan did something he hadn't done in years. He visited his old friend Kyle, a junkyard engineer and weapons smuggler. Kyle laughed when he saw Ethan. Didn't think I'd see you again. What's the occasion? Finally tired of fixing coffee machines? Ethan smiled. I need help building something stronger. Kyle narrowed his eyes. You in trouble? Let's just say, I'm protecting someone important. Kyle shrugged. Then let's get to work. They worked all day, strengthening the apartment, reinforcing the walls, adding motion alarms and defense drones. By sunset, the place looked less like a home and more like a fortress. 3 nights later, they came. 3. Hunters, silent, armed, but this time the lights outside flashed red, sirens wailed, and drones hovered, targeting them before they could step onto the stairs. Ethan stood at the top of the building, holding a strange pulse rifle Kyle had fixed. Morel stood beside him, her armor, once hidden, now glowing with royal markings. This is your final warning, Ethan shouted. Leave, or face us, the leader growled. You protect a widow and her bloodline, you will die with her. Ethan raised the rifle. Then come find out how that ends. Before the hunters could move, Merrill stepped forward and spoke in her native tongue, loud and clear. Her words echoed like thunder. The hunters stopped. They stared. Then without a word, they backed away. Morel turned to Ethan. I spoke the Queen's right, in public. That means I challenged their claim. Ethan exhaled. So, we won? For now, she said. But now, the whole galaxy knows what we are, and who we are. He looked at her, then at Aina, watching from the window, eyes wide, glowing with pride. Later that night, Ethan found something small on the table, a ring, carved from alien stone, wrapped in silver wire, simple, beautiful. Aina held it, up with both hands. Mama made it. Morel stood beside her, quiet. Ethan looked at them, the queen who had lost everything, the child who had cried in the cold, the man who gave them a place to belong, a family. Will you accept our bond fully now? Morel asked, voice barely a whisper. Ethan smiled, tears in his eyes. I already did the night I heard her cry in the alley. And he slid the ring onto his finger,